Guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's case, I just want to put a quick disclaimer and say that all the information I have gathered is from the internet and I'm just putting it together to tell a story. So in today's case, I am going to be talking about a murderer known as the Candyman. Now I know during this time, parents like to tell scary stories to their kids to scare them, but today's case is going to be about an actual person that changed Halloween forever. This story takes place in Deer Park, Texas in 1974. After a dinner date in 1974 on Halloween night, Ronald O'Brien and his wife took their 2 children trick-or-treating along with their family friend Jim Bates and his 2 kids. So there were a total of 4 kids. 2 of them were Ronald's kids, which was Timothy, who was 8 years old, and Elizabeth, who was 5 years old. And there was also the Bates' 2 kids. So they all went trick-or-treating together. On this day, it was raining out, so the kids were a little bummed because they thought they weren't going to get as much candy. But come to their surprise, they actually had a very successful route. While they were going along on their route, they knocked on one door and the residents didn't answer. The kids stood there for a little while, but they're like, all right, let's go. Let's go to the next house to get some more candy. So they just ran along. But however, Ronald stayed behind and he claimed to keep knocking on the door. So while the kids were along ahead with the Bates kids, they were at the next house. So Ronald called up to the kids and he opened his hand and he was like, guys, look what the residents gave me. So he had 5 giant pixie sticks in his hands and the kids were like, oh, great, candy. So they ran up and they took the candy. If you don't know what pixie sticks are, they are colored straws that are filled with powdered sugar on the inside. After giving each kid a pixie stick, he told Mr. Bates, geez, you have some rich neighbors. He gave each child a pixie stick, so there was only 1 left because he had 5. And while they were walking, still trick-or-treating, he saw a kid that he recognized and gave it to them. So after a fun night of trick-or-treating, they went back home, and the kids got home. They had their little bags of candy, and Timothy was so excited by all the candy he got because it was raining out, so he thought it wasn't going to be successful, but he actually got a lot of candy. So he was so excited, and he asked his dad, he was like, Dad, look at all this candy I got. And his dad said that he could pick 1 candy before bed to eat. So Timothy shifted through all his candies that he got from Halloween, and he was like, ooh, the pixie stick. So he took the pixie stick and he was like, Dad, this is the candy that I want to eat. This is the one I chose. We don't know what Elizabeth chose, but she chose something. It wasn't the pixie stick. So Timothy tried to open the pixie stick, but he couldn't. It was like mushed together. So he asked his dad, he was like, Dad, can you help me open the pixie stick? So Ronald opened it, he rolled it in between his hands, and then he poured it into Timothy's mouth. As soon as he ate the pixie stick, he was like, oh my God, this tastes so bitter. So Ronald went and got a cup of Kool-Aid and told him to wash it down with that. Timothy was going to drink the Kool-Aid, but his stomach was hurting him so bad that he fell to the floor and started convulsing on the floor, and he was vomiting everywhere. Ronald was quoted telling the police, 30 seconds after I left Tim's room, I heard him cry to me, Daddy, Daddy, my stomach hurts. He was in the bathroom convulsing, vomiting, gasping, and then he suddenly went limp. Timothy ended up dying within an hour of consuming the candy. He didn't even make it to the hospital in time. Everyone was completely in shock. They didn't know how this could have happened. The whole neighborhood heard about this and the parents started losing their mind. I mean, what parent wouldn't? If you hear that the candy is poison and you just went trick-or-treating that same night, I would lose my mind too. So all the parents collected the candy and they brought it all together and brought it to the police department in fear of it being poisoned, and they asked them to check all of their candy. The police collected all the candy and they started going through all the candy. They went through Timothy and Elizabeth's candy and the other kids that were with them that night, the 2 kids that Mr. Bates had, and they went through the candy and they realized that the pixie sticks were poorly put together and they had staples on them. They looked at the other candy that was in the bags and none of the other candy had staples on them. So they were like, okay, this seems a little suspicious. Let's look into these pixie sticks. Okay, so let's go into the autopsy of Timothy's body. Timothy's body was brought to the medical examiner. The medical examiner said as soon as they got Timothy's body, there was a scent of almonds coming from Timothy's mouth, and as a telltale sign of cyanide poisoning. After the autopsy was completed, it was confirmed that Timothy was poisoned with potassium cyanide, and it was enough to kill 2 to 3 grown men. Police made sure that they collected all the other pixie sticks from the other children, and thankfully they were all unopened. The pixie sticks were examined, and come to find out, the top 2 inches of the pixie stick was removed and it was replaced with cyanide. The police went back to Ronald and Jim and they wanted them to retrace their steps on Halloween night to see where they got the pixie sticks from. When they were talking to Ronald, Ronald kept giving conflicting accounts of where he actually got the pixie sticks from, and he couldn't remember which house it was that gave him the pixie sticks. Ronald finally picked out a house, and he was like, that's the house right there. I think that's the house. I remember. It looks familiar. That's the house. So then the police were like, okay, so what did the guy look like? And then Ronald says, I'm not for sure. I didn't see his face. I just saw a hairy arm stick out the door and place the pixie sticks in my hand. The police went and knocked on the door, but the guy that Ronald claimed gave him the pixie sticks was not home. Come to find out, the guy was actually at work. So the police went to the guy's place of work and they actually arrested him. The man completely denied this and said he couldn't have done it because he was at work that night. The police actually went to go check and looked at his timestamps, and he had timestamps showing that he was at work. And also there was 200 people that could vouch for him saying that he was at work that night. They obviously had to release him because he had proof showing that he wasn't home that night. The police began to think about who would want to kill these children, who would poison candy to kill little kids. The police thought about it some more and they were like, let's check into the O'Brien family. They started to become really suspicious of Ronald. They thought he was acting very weird, and the fact that he couldn't point out the house, that seemed very strange to them. They did a background check on Ronald, and while checking into Ronald, they found out that he actually inquired with several chemical companies to see if he could buy cyanide and to see how much it would take to kill a person. The police were like, whoa, this is serious. So they decided to get a search warrant. They went and they searched the O'Brien's home, and come to find out, there was a pocket knife with cyanide residue on it found in the home. The police were like, okay, Ronald, let's go. They took Ronald into the station and they asked him to do a polygraph test. He did the polygraph test, but he failed miserably.
Since it had been raining, Mr. O'Brien had a raincoat on, and unbeknownst to his friends who he was with, he had the pixie sticks shoved up the sleeve of his raincoat.
He was arrested on November 5th, 1974 for the murder of Timothy. Now, I know you're thinking, why on earth would Ronald want to kill his kids? Like, that's crazy. Well, let's dig into Ronald a little bit more. Ronald was a 39-year-old man, and he was married to his wife, Deneen, and he had 2 kids, which were Timothy and Elizabeth. When Ronald was described by his peers, they said that he had a steady job at an optical company. He also served as a deacon at his church. When everyone described him, they just said that he was a normal, nice man. His pastor described him as, quote, a good Christian man and an above-average father. While the police were looking into Ronald's background and seeing all these nice things about him, they did find one major flaw. Ronald was in serious financial issues. He was in serious debt and had discussed this with some of his close friends. In reality, Ronald had 21 different jobs in the last 10 years. That's crazy. I don't know anybody that's had that many jobs. Come to find out, he had all these different jobs because he kept getting fired for fraudulent behavior and negligence. So going back to Halloween night, on this day, Ronald was on the brink of being fired from yet another job at the Texas State Optical. He was only bringing in $150 a week. This barely covered rent and food. He was more than $100,000 in debt. And strangely enough, during this time, Ronald decided to raise his children's insurance policy to $30,000 each. I bet you can see where this is going. Ronald decided to raise his children's insurance policy to gain that money to pay off his debt. And if there isn't enough going on right now in this case, the day after Timothy's death, Ronald called the insurance company. Hey, can I get that money now? Can I get that money now, please? Oh, thank you. On June 3rd, 1975, Ronald was committed of 1 count of murder for Timothy and 4 counts of attempted murder, and he was sentenced to death. Ronald appealed his case multiple times, but they were all denied. Ronald was executed by lethal injection on March 31st, 1984 at the Texas State Penitentiary in Huntsville. Ronald never confessed to these crimes, but I think we can conclude that he definitely did it. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm trying to get better and getting into these cases. Let me know what you guys want to see and what you guys want to know more about. I can do the research and just put out a video for you. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and come back for more cases, more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.